Put me out on. Morning London. You can now add up to 3 guests to your broadcast. Right. How can I guess? Right, apologise everyone for this sideways on view. I don't know what's happening to my phone. It does me head in. It does this thing where, anyway, I'm coming live from rotate your phone, the damn phone. Right, so it's I don't know what day it is. It's Sunday anyway. There we go. In central London, I just let the viewing figures come up. Central London, in London's Arab Quarter, as they call it. However, everywhere is getting posh now. That's it. I'm back on track, and I'm sorry if it's coming out the wrong way round. I just I've given up hope and trying to spin this phone round. All right, so there is a purpose for today. I'm going to, I don't know, is Alan Merritt watching? If Alan Merritt's watching, I'm going to invite him on this podcast, because if that works, then I can start doing some good lives from here. So, right, now I'm on the hunt today because I've been tasked with a job to locate any veterans that are sleeping rough, because the PTSD camp down in sort of Bath area, they've offered to assist any homeless that are ex-forces. So we're going to go out and see if we can find some, and then do an exchange of details so they can, because it's a cold winter. There's usually a guy sat just over there in the middle of the road. So we're right. Let's go for a little walk. Right. So there's a plan for this year, and I've managed to purchase a push bike, and it turns out that this push bike is exactly the same age as Big Bad Alan Merritt. This bike was built in 1955, so unlike Alan Merritt, this bike is in poor order. Old Al, he's still up and working, so I'm going to, over a period of the next few months, restore this bike. Unfortunately, we won't be able to restore Alan to his original glory, but we'll restore this bike to its original glory. And then from there, once it's done, hopefully accompanied by a lad called Anthony, a former bank robber who's now turned his life around. Yet to put this to him, so he did say though that he's on board with any sort of endurance fitness things that I do. I need to get back on the fitness because I've been busy, but I've not been doing my cardio work, so there's a bit more beef on the bone than normal. So we'll get that burnt off, and I'm going to cycle this old jalopy from beach home, or the site of the old beach home, all the way to the site of the Quarriers kids home, which is in the Rozzers, which is north of Glasgow. And on way, we're going to make intermittent stops, and we're going to be stopping pigs, man, the feds. Look, where are they gone? On their way to do something. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. I'll be stopping at various sites that have been the venue of institutional abuse, and hopefully meet up with the survivors. So I'll be calling out to the wonderful Blair brothers, Joey and Bob, to see if they will partake in our cycling venture. Nottingham, maybe do a podcast outside HMP style where No, I won't go there anymore. But wherever what's her face is, Melanie Shaw, and really sort of meander our way, you know, through the north, through the Midlands, through the north. I don't know whether at this point whether I'm going to be going middle of England, east coast, west coast, I'm not sure. Maybe even stop at North Wales, who knows. And maybe even, actually thinking of it, could go and do a podcast outside HMP Berwyn, where Willy Wong is. So, I could do that actually, that's a good thought. You know, so off we go. So we're on the streets now, and I'm just going to I'm going to take you on a tour now. I'm going to take you on a tour. Right. This is. Let me show you it. Let me show you what's going down. This is one of the busiest and most polluted roads in the UK. It's called the Edgware Road. It's like the Arab Quarter. St Michael's Street. I was born just at the end of this road. Let's wander down here. Right, here we go. Yeah, just down the end of this road, if you take a right, that's where I was born. And lived the early days here in this, just not too far from this area. This is right in the heart of central London. And as you can see, it's all the oldie Peabody type buildings that spin around back to me. And this battery's low. Right, that's the phone exchange, Paddington phone exchange. This is called Paddington, and this was the heart of London's child vice, the overt vice, shall I say. So if we can look round, places like that, if we can see, it's a bin area, right? This bin area will be where street prostitutes will be taking their clients. And what you'll see traces there. You always know that they take them there, because if you look down there, that's human faeces there, right? I'm sorry, a bit disdainful, but that's where street people go in, use their toilets, you know, and also where they will be servicing their clients. And some of these people that will be using the services of the street prostitutes, you know, these are well-to-do people. We've had headmasters, court and all sorts. Yeah, Dave Swift said the Cali is worse. Yeah, the Cali is far worse. Market Road is without a doubt the worst. But I'm not there at the moment. I'm sort of Paddington. But now let me tell you something. Let's talk about psychology here, victim psychology. Why would anyone, bear in mind what we've just seen, want to use that as a point of preference to have it off? Well, it was said to me by not just by a victim, but also by a psychologist. It's the bin area. They're worthless. They see themselves as worthless, as rubbish, as society's trash. So where better than to put yourself than by bins? And that's the truth. You know, that is a level of worth. That's how people get eroded when they are abused. That psychologically they see themselves as part of the underbelly. And that's reality. That's reality, that is what we just saw back there. You know, that's very, very raw. There'll be all sorts of diseases floating around in that area. Hepatitis C, contagious tuberculosis, sod the COVID. My God. Just take a tour around the red light area. Now, little girls will be taken now. Little girls. And they will be passed around these clients. And they will pay extra money for unprotected sex, especially unprotected anal sex. And when you're a crackhead, that's what you do. And let's not get it wrong here. They were pimped out. These girls were pimped out by a woman, and some were even passed over to this woman by their own mothers. So let's stop saying that it's when we're going about these grooming gangs and human trafficking. It's these men, mainly of Balkan origin or whatever, doing it. 80% of it is done within the home, you know, 80% of it. And for a parent to do that to their own child, for what? Rocks of crack cocaine. And again, when people go on about, you know, legalisation of drugs, again, I don't want to get caught up in all that, but there's nothing beneficial in doing crack cocaine. That's what it leads to. It's a slow depletion of your morals, your standards, and then what next? One woman, street prostitute, said to me, she said, John, you could give a smackhead £1,000 and within an hour they'd step over their own dying baby to go and buy linseed oil. Take linseed oil and it goes through the system and it removes the toxins from the fat. We've all got fat in our body. People are obsessed with fat. You need people that have got low body fat are always ill. You've got to have a layer of fat. It's not my excuse. Isn't that funny? I've lost signal. I'm in central London and I lost signal. How can that even be possible? And I've lost 100 viewers. How can that be possible? You know. Anyway, they're coming up again. Tune back in, chaps. Tune back in. I've got an important message to say, right? So, what we intend to do as this new collective of God-fearing, decent people with social conscience is try and help. Not just, it's all about information. We need the information, you know. Everything works on information. The police work on information. The intelligence services work on information. We need to work on information. And we need the information of what the survivors know. Okay, we've got some tough guys with us now. So to a certain degree we can afford people a little bit of physical protection. These guys will give 100% protection when it comes to protecting people from satanic ritual abuse. But we need the information. We can't deal with I can't remembers. Unfortunately, it's no good for us. We need... Alan, in a minute, could you just send me an invite through on this channel and see if we can do it one-to-one? Because I'm on my other page now and it allows me. So, but I'm going to show you something now. So let's clean people up. Let's get the thing. We're in with a rehab centre now. That will do us a bit of a discount. But people have got to want to be part of it. They've got to want to be part of that clean society and not go back to their old ways. Right, so this is Sussex Gardens, the infamous Sussex Gardens, right? Paddington Station is just up that way, and I want to show you something here. Let's go over to here. Right, I'm going to swap this round to, there we go, Southwick Street, junction with Sussex Gardens. Here be a bush, here be a bush. Right, young girls as young as 9 years old were placed in there, right? They were placed in there. Now, if I was to get little Johnny Wedger John Thomas out and urinate on the street, these people in all these flats would call the old Bill. There's a boozer there. They say, there's a bloke having a wee. So how could they have not seen young girls being put in there at 2, 3, 4 in the morning, right? Cars would then come up and down this street, like these fellas are doing, and they'd stop and they'd approach the prostitute, aka Foxy Fiona, and they'd request a girl, and she would then drag a girl out from them bushes, bring them out into a car, and off they'd go to one of these buildings up there, this way, behind me there. They're all hotels, and some of them were doing tricks for hourly rates. They were doing turns for hourly rates. So and it went on and on and on and on, and it's still going on. It ain't gone away. It's still going on. And what did the police do? They did nothing. Now, I tend to be a bit of a broken record with this one, but a broken record because it's still going on. And what we're seeing is victims, when they come forward, they're just getting attacked. Now, one of the things we're getting now is, and we saw it come out with the Epstein, is the false memory syndrome. Oh, false memory. They watched a film. They got Asperger's. You know, it's a fixated mind. You know, these are confused, broken people, and they're just hanging on to some fabrication, which is a mashup of various films they've watched. You know, the fact that these kids, if their parents could be asked, would take them to, oh look, it's horse riding, would take them to the doctors where they would be diagnosed with internal infections, genital infections, and no alarm bell was ever raised. You know, bruising to the inner thigh, no alarm bell was ever raised. Torn sphincter muscles, no alarm bells were ever raised. You know, one of the most disgusting things that I'm hearing a lot were from the satanic ritual abuse survivors who were abused by the parents and others who were active members of Christian churches. How does that even work? I mean, we visited a church at the weekend. Well, I'm up to 150 views. A church, and this church, if you was to see it, it looked like something out of a Richard Curtis film, like one of the soppy Bridget Jones films. You know, Middle England, little village, up on, you know, these lovely hills, blah de blah de blah. Oh, the church is doing something here. What are they doing? They're doing coffee. Got a coffee morning. Let's have a wee look. Let's turn around, look. Are they fighting against Satan? I do hope they are. You know, hope this is raising money for the eternal fight against evil. God bless. They are doing good, but curse them if they're not. No, I shouldn't curse anyone. But this, but just don't it look like? I'm sorry, but don't that church look like a horned beast? You know, what's nothing benevolent in that building. You know, one minute they'd be in church. These are people who don't swear, by the way. You never hear them effing and jeffing. They probably pay all their parking fines. Gardens always probably kept. They probably know, the women probably know all the Latin names of all the flowers in the gardens. But when the sun goes down and the full moon comes up, they're urinating on their own children. They're passing their own children about. They're getting babies from drug addict prostitutes, and they're mutilating them, offering them up to their dark satanic lord. All for the exchange of vast amounts of money to benefit someone in business, or someone to be get a contract, or a footballer to make the Premier League. I've heard of a footballer that attended a sacrifice, a voodoo sacrifice, quite an infamous sacrifice, in order to attain status in the Premier League, a West African footballer. I've heard of a boxer who became world champion, who turned to voodoo in order to win. I've heard it all. Honestly, there is nothing I haven't heard. When I thought I'd seen and heard it all in the old Bill, especially in Vice, my God, was I in for a shock. Dealing with satanic ritual abuse and trying to expose it. I had the Daily Mail call me up. The Daily Mail, white Middle England's favourite, you know, favourite little rag. The amount of posh, white, middle-class women that sit there and read it as a journal of truth. And they rang me up, and this guy, I can't remember his name, otherwise I would say it. And he said, John, he said, they all speak the same, don't they? John, he said, satanic ritual abuse, does it really exist? And I said to this guy, have you heard of Aleister Crowley? He went, yeah. I said, have you heard of Ozzy Osbourne? Yeah. I said, have you heard of Anton LaVey? Yeah. Who was the other one? It was Peaches Geldof was involved in the OTO. And I went on and on and on about examples of Satanism in popular culture. I said they actively worship Satan. And Jimi Hendrix, so many of them have openly proclaimed their loyalty to Satan. You know, and what do they think happens at these satanic rituals? You know, the one reason they try and make it a religion, but in another way they don't want it, because they would have to then disclose what goes on. They have rituals called marriage to the beast, where it worships sodomy with children, marriage to the beast. So, if I'm a gambling man, which I'm not, those people in popular culture that openly admit to doing Satan, do they take part in these rituals? Because they're part of it, from what I've seen and heard. I've never had anyone who has been a victim of satanic abuse tell me that they've been at ritual where someone has just turned up and watched. There's a police officer, again I can't name him, I wish I could, because the blokes are wrong'un. He always crops up, he's on the telly, he claims to have walked in on a satanic ritual and stood there and saw it through because he was too frightened to leave in case they thought he was an outsider. Well, I'll tell you what the bloke's doing, he's lying, he's telling porkers he's a bullshitter. And this guy's on the telly, advising the government, the police, Good Morning TV, on bits and pieces. We had one brave Chief Constable, Mike Veal, who spoke out about Ted Heath and his involvement with Satanism, and the intelligence services jumped on him, like they jumped on me and many others. What is it about Satanism that these people don't want exposing, eh? What is it? It is real, and it does exist. I want to show you something now. Right, this is Bayswater. Right, we've just gone from defecate in an alleyway by bins with urine and broken crack pipes, right? And you've seen how long it's taken me. A couple of minutes. Look at this. Bayswater. Okay? These buildings here, we raided one of these once. There's brothels in them. So when you've gone from the street prostitutes with young kids up there, all the way to these tend to be occupied by like Chinese. And I'll tell you a funny story. Again, this will be in my book. What would happen is, I'll show you what would happen. I would come up to the building as a punter, and we would have info which one it is, and I would press the button, one of these, it's okay, right, some bloke there, and then they'd let me up, and I'd say, I've got an appointment, and I'd let in my team, and then I'd go to the door, the flat door, knock on the door, and they'd open the door and they'd say, you've got the entrance fee. The entrance fee for a venue like this would have been 20 quid. So I hand over £20 note, a score, to the madam. Again, these madams make out they don't know what's going on. They're liars, they're liars, they're liars. There's young girls in these places and they make out they don't know they're liars. And we hear them all the time saying, oh, I never knew what went on. And then once I was in, I'd put my foot in the door and the cavalry would steam in and we'd bombast through the buildings and we'd just boot all the doors in and we'd be looking for underage girls. And I can remember we go steaming through and we booted this door in, and there was a fella who worked for a government institute. He worked for the Government Institute of Mechanical and Electrical Engineers, and he was bent over with his sock suspenders on, his garters on, and he was being caned on the bare buttocks by some East European whore. And he turned round in absolute dismay, and in the plummiest Etonian accent ever, he went, "My God, officers, am I in trouble?" And my sergeant, in a working class London accent, So get your trousers on, mate, and fuck off. And he went scurrying out, pulling up his trolleys as he went. And these are the people running our country. And so, why do they do it? Why do they like to be caned? Now, there's a book called The Poisoned Bowl. You ever get to read it? It's very expensive, but it was donated to me, and it's all about the history behind the fee-paying. We call them public schools. Anywhere else they're private schools, but we call them public, and it's still with the Public Schools Act, where the members of the public, poverty, the poor, were allowed access under a sponsorship scheme to attend back in, I don't know, the 1700s or whenever, who knows. Anyway, it concentrates on Winchester, Radley, Eton, and a few other places of beatings and sodomy. And what they found was that these schools are based on the Greco-Roman gladiatorial arenas, where they divest a child at the youngest possible age, 4 or 5 years old, and place them in these non-matriarchal societies of extreme discipline, where any infraction of the rigid laws is met with 6 of the best. So can you imagine a very, very young boy being hit by a grown man with a wispy stick at full pelt? You've got all these lads from 4 up till whatever age, I don't know, you know, teen years, and sodomy and rape is rife. I had I'm going to walk this way. I had the son of a well-known lord. This lord was actually named on the Reigns list as being a rapist and murderer at his well-known estate in Hampshire. And his son contacted me and he said, Eton, the fagging system is nothing more than a rent boy racket. Yet nothing is done. Nothing is done. We're seeing police officers 6 abreast jumping on some skinny little woman, as I saw just over there back in the summer of last year, because she weren't wearing a mask, and she had a daughter die from a vaccine, and she had a little placard. She was built like a little mouse, and 6 of them jumped on her because she weren't wearing a mask and she wouldn't disperse. Yet what we've seen back there, that's depravity. Nothing. Not one dedicated officer to deal with it. From the time I left the Vice Unit until the Jimmy Savile expose, when they were forced, Cressida Dick was forced to start up this human sexual exploitation. They love an acronym, the police, and they love a massive name for something which is all encompassing, but it's absolute load of bollocks. Call it vice, call it what it is. Child prostitution. Someone said to me, child prostitution, you can't say that. I don't give a toss what people think about that. It's called semantics, a seminar in semantics. What is in a word? It's what we do that counts, and we need good people to stand up. We've just seen my good friend Mr. Lenny Harper watching. God bless you, Lenny. You have inspired me. Your name still gets mentioned within the survivor community, and you really were a brave man who served the public to its fullest. Well done, you. You probably saved many lives out there. And not only that, let's just not look at, maybe these things stop. Maybe they stop. Okay. But the suicides continue. You get more soldiers from the Falklands War have died through suicide than they have in conflict, because people struggle with what they've endured, what they've done, what they go through. And it's the same with survivors. How many of them are struggling, you know, trying, especially now in these dark months, these cold dark months, and prices going up and up and up. People struggle to find work because they can't have a paymaster, because any sort of authority is coercive, is abusive, you know. So this year we've got our lovely team. I'm so privileged to work with this collective of phenomenal individuals and we have been active every single day since our inception. We're building stronger. We can't open our doors too wide because, as we found, we get loonies, nutters, Satanists, voodoo people. My word, voodoo. Something that nearly caused me an immense amount of damage last year. I got a very, very severe attack by a voodoo practitioner on me, which I still bear the scars of that one. And it's a spiritual warfare. They do what they do because they enjoy it, and it destroys the souls of children. So I'm out now. I'm walking around Hyde Park, trying to find an ex-veteran so I can try and give them some assistance. And there's a group of veterans. They set themselves up with a thing called a PTSD camp, and they got raided. I'm not going to say too much. Under the Terrorism Act, they got raided under the Terrorism Act. These aren't terrorists. You know, these are just decent human beings that are fed up with this madness, this wokeness, this detachment away from good Christian values, where they're sexualising children, and that's deemed the norm.